إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. All praises are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We thank Him, we glorify Him, we seek His forgiveness, and we seek the protection and refuge in Him from the evil within ourselves and the evil of our actions. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده. And I bear witness that there is no God or deity worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all praises and blessings are due to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who has delivered the message, fulfilled the trust, and he struggled the utmost struggle. Amma ba'd, brothers and sisters, I greet you with the greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As we look around us today, we see, alhamdulillah, in many of our institutions, our Islamic schools, our mosques, our non-profit organizations, a specific focus on the youth. And it's come a long way from where it has been in the past, alhamdulillah. But I wanted today to spend even more focus on why it's so important, more now than ever before. On why it's so essential for us to continue to develop our youth. And when I say develop our youth, I mean it's on the responsibility of every single one of you here as a young child, as a young man or woman, and the adults, our older generations, our wives and older brothers and sisters in Islam, on why it's such a continued and important effort that all of us must be involved in. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, in one of the most blessed chapters in the entire Quran, one that inshallah many of us read this morning or will read it before the end of today, Surah Al-Kahf. Allah named it very specifically after the chapter or the story of the people of the cave. Who were they? We all know who they were. Very young men who stood for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah many times He simplifies His characterizations of people. He says about this group, إِنَّهُمْ فِتْيَةٌ آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ وَزِدْنَاهُمْ هُدًى. They were youth who believed in their Lord, and we increased them in guidance. So what does He characterize them as? Before زِدْنَاهُمْ هُدًى, that was the result. Allah increased in their guidance, but what did He do before that? What Allah characterized them? إِنَّهُمْ فِتْيَةٌ آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ. They believed in their Lord. So at the core of who this group was, آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ. So to many of our young children here, when you hear the story of Al-Kahf, the youth who slept in the cave for 310 years, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how does Allah describe them? آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ. At their core, they believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What the lesson is for us here, brothers and sisters, is make sure it's our duty to ensure that our children believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a proper way that can lead them to do things such as what Ashab al-Kahf did. And many of us know about the hadith. Among the first 5 questions, or some of the 5 questions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask you on the Day of Judgment, is about what? First off, He will ask you about how you spent your time in this life. And then Allah asks you a second question. He already asks you about how you spent your time on earth. But what does He ask as the second question? Shababih, on your shabab, on your youth, how you spent that specifically. So Allah will ask you 2 questions on the Day of Judgment about the time and about your actions. The first is about all of your life. And the second question, Allah takes another question to specify what you spent your youth in. عن شبابه فيما أبلاه, on his shabab and how he spent it or wasted it. We see today, unfortunately, it's very unfortunate, in the past, when a young brother or sister, our youth, were to do something incorrect or improper, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bustur alayhim, He will cover for them. right? You find out from the gossip. When I was growing up, we didn't have social media or Facebook or Snapchat or all these things. Unfortunately today, when a brother or sister spends their youth in the wrong things, everybody can see it. And there's a jahl bil amal, there's a sort of arrogant boasting about, hey, this is what I did yesterday night or that night or what I did today. Reminder, brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially for our young children, Allah will ask you about your time twice and about your youth specifically. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, one of the most beautiful chapters, He brings us the story of Luqman and the beautiful interaction he had with his son. And it's very beautiful because when you connect all of these together, you see certain patterns in the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants our youth. The first advice that Luqman gave to his son was about what? To thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The next one, which is a continuation, some ways to transfer it or to put the opposite of shukr, of thankfulness, is shirk or kufr. Because when you are believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you thank Him for it. When you don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you do the opposite, which is kufr. And so the second advice of Luqman, he says, Ya bunayya la tushrik billah. So you connect these two stories of youth. Number one is with Ashab al-Kahf, and now with the advice of Sayyidina Luqman. At the core of it all is what? Is your iman. If our children have a solid core of iman and belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will take care of them. And more importantly, the most important part of that is an understanding of their iman. There are three amazing examples of many of Sahaba who truly represented what it means to be a youth who truly believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what's interesting about it is when you start to dig into their stories, you realize how young they were. It's amazing, subhanAllah. I'm going to just quickly bring up two, and then the third I'm going to focus a little bit more on his story. The first is Zayd ibn Thabit. Zayd ibn Thabit, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him, was born on approximately, they say, right around the time the Prophet ﷺ received the message. So about 610 AD or something like that. So by the time the Prophet ﷺ died, he was 23 years old, approximately. At that time, in his development, right next to the Prophet ﷺ, he knew how to write. And the Prophet would always use him to write down the wahi that came down from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the most important tasks and responsibilities in the history of our entire ummah was given to Sayyidina Zayd bin Thabit, which was to what? To compile the Quran together and make one final or one book that has compiled all of the wahi from the Prophet ﷺ at the time of Abu Bakr. Think about that right now. How many copies of the Mus'haf of the Quran do we have in the world today? Probably millions, maybe if not more, billions, hundreds of millions. And now with our iPhones and online, that task was given to a 23-year-old. Think of it. That's the definition of basically an intern or a co-op when you're graduating from college. But one of the most important tasks in the Muslim Ummah was given to a young man who had a whole development. When he was 12 years old, at the time of, or right around 13, 14 years old, right after the Muslims migrated to Mecca, to Medina, in the Battle of Badr, he begged the Prophet ﷺ to go and fight at the age of 13, 14, and the Prophet ﷺ refused for him to do that. And subhanAllah, you can see, if you really sit with the story of Sayyidina Zayd and how he used to sit next to the Prophet ﷺ, he was an expert in the Quran at the age of 23 years old. Alhamdulillah, we have Haffaz today who memorize the Quran, but Zayd ibn Thabit was developed by the Prophet ﷺ, that when Sayyidina Abu Bakr, he wanted to give a responsibility, he gave it to this young man. The next person that we can see and learn from is Sayyidina Usama bin Zayd. Sayyidina Usama bin Zayd, who was as Habib or Hubbi Rasulillah, as he used to be referred to by the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet used to love him so much because, as we know the story, his father was adopted by the Prophet ﷺ before the Prophet received the revelation. Eventually in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He forced the Prophet ﷺ not to adopt him or to not call him his son. And so, Usama bin Zayd is the son of Zayd. And in one of the final battles in the life of the Prophet ﷺ, so obviously the Prophet is still alive, you have Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, some of the greatest Sahaba, and the Prophet ﷺ chose for Usama bin Zayd to be the leader of one of the most important battles in the history of Islam. At 16 or 17 or 18 years old, there's differences of what time. That is because they were developed. They were ready. As youth, they were developed. And this is more honestly a focus to our adults and our parents, to really focus. And the advice here is, take a child, not just yours, but someone else that you think you can have an influence on, and push him. Tell them to memorize the Quran. Tell them to lead. Tell them to be a person that this ummah will someday benefit from in a great and significant way. The third story or the third Sahabi that I want to focus on is one of the most beautiful stories that you can see about any of the Sahaba. His name was Mus'ab ibn Umayr. I'm sure many of you know his story. Mus'ab ibn Umayr was, at the time, at the revelation was first brought down to the Prophet ﷺ. He was a young man. He was very well respected in Mecca. Very well respected. He used to wear the nicest clothes you can possibly think of. Even the shoes, the really expensive shoes that came all the way from Yemen, he used to have the nicest ones. And everybody, even though he was a young man, probably in his young 20s, that he used to be so well respected that he would sit in on the biggest, gatherings, or think of it like the Congress of Mecca. And he was, just because of how well they used to consider him as one of the most beautiful young men of all of Mecca. His mother used to love him so much and so dearly. And when the Prophet ﷺ finally revealed the message to everyone, it became a general call to Islam. Mus'ab ibn Umayr was very intrigued. He wanted to hear about it. And so he sort of went off to Darul Arqam. Darul Arqam, as many of you know, was the place where the Prophet ﷺ first used to meet with his companions to teach them about Islam. And so he went there, and the first time he sat with the Prophet ﷺ and he listened to the Quran, he accepted Islam instantly. Now at the time, Mecca is not a big city compared to what we have today, so people know and they see. And they went and told Mus'ab's mother that Mus'ab has accepted Islam, and we saw him pray. And right then his mother was furious. She loved him dearly, but she could not stand for him to accept the faith of Islam. And subhanAllah, when they brought Mus'ab in front of, again, the Congress that you want, of all the big leaders, the big bad leaders of Mecca, and they asked him, why did you accept him? His mother, when he said, I accepted him because it was the truth, he's telling the people that I accepted Islam because of the truth. The story says that Mus'ab's mother wanted to hit him so hard, but she held back in front of everyone. What she decided was she took Mus'ab, with the help of some other men, tied him up in the corner in the house, and he could not escape for a long period of time. SubhanAllah, this is a man who was well respected, a young man, nicest clothes. If he was in today's time, he'd probably be taking selfies every other night, putting it up on Facebook and everything. And he turned all that down because he believed in the truth. The story goes on to say that Mus'ab ibn Umayr, he eventually was able to escape from the handcuffs or the rope that he was tied to in his house, and was able to go away to Habasha, and he migrated with the Muslims there. And he spent time in safety and security for a short period. Then there was a rumor that went around the Muslims in Al-Habasha, which is present-day Ethiopia. That's where many of the Muslims, for our young children who don't know, many of the Muslims were being persecuted. So the Prophet ﷺ advised them to go and live in what's present-day Ethiopia under a Christian king who would protect them. So there was a rumor that said that Mecca all accepted Islam. So Mus'ab was one of the first people to return to Mecca, and he realized that that was a lie. And his mother once again tried to come and hold him and put him as her prisoner. And in the end, he told her, he tried to advise her, tried to call to Islam, and she said, "You are no longer my son." So this is a young man. He's probably, when he accepted Islam, maybe even in his teenage years, young 20s. Eventually, he started following the Prophet ﷺ wherever he would go. And the story goes that one day, the Prophet ﷺ was sitting with his companions. And Mus'ab, who was known as, who used to have the nicest, most beautiful clothes, most Snapchatable, most Facebook, the best clothes that you could, tell people, "I got this clothes." He was wearing an old, ragged piece of cloth. And the Prophet ﷺ, he tells Mus'ab ibn Umayr, and he says, he was telling the companions, there will be one day when we will defeat the Persians and the Romans, the Byzantines, and you will be able to wear one of the most beautiful clothes in the morning and a different one at night. You will be able to eat from one beautiful plate and another at night. And so they asked the Prophet ﷺ, "What's better for us?" And Mus'ab is sitting there, and he told them, "What you have right now is better for you in this life and in the hereafter." There's so much that we could keep going with the story of Mus'ab, subhanAllah, but the reason why I want to focus in on it a little bit is because of this last part right here. When the time came for the Muslims, the Prophet ﷺ, he met with some people from Medina who came to make Hajj in Mecca. And the Prophet ﷺ wanted to send someone with them to call to Islam. The Prophet ﷺ chose Mus'ab ibn Umayr. SubhanAllah, within 2 to 3 years, all of Medina had accepted Islam, or most of the Aus and the Khazraj, the two main clans in Medina, most of them had accepted Islam in 2 years. And that was because of the beautiful work and development of Mus'ab ibn Umayr. And the point that I'm trying to bring here, brothers and sisters, is that if we develop our youth, and this message is also for us, our young brothers and children here, young brothers and sisters, you could one day be the ambassador to this country. Just like Mus'ab ibn Umayr was the ambassador of the Prophet ﷺ to Medina. You could call an entire group of people, an entire country to Islam. You have to believe that. And we, inshallah, need to focus on developing our youth and preparing them for the challenges that lay ahead. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه يا فوز المستغفرين. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, like I said, I'm not here to paint a bad picture of what our youth are these days, but rather a positive one. Alhamdulillah, we have so many initiatives and each masjid has its own youth committee, each masjid has their summer youth camps, the Umrah trips. Alhamdulillah, there's a lot of good to hope for. And at the same time, there's also a lot of challenges. You see some of the research that's coming out these days. SubhanAllah, all the challenges that our young Muslim brothers and sisters face, it's a lot larger and much higher percentage than you really think. I don't want to bring some of the numbers up right now, but the point that I'm trying to bring here is we need to discuss these issues. We need to bring it out to the light. And there are so many advices, and there's not enough time in this khutbah on what to do and how to do it. But inshallah, we will focus on it in the future, bi'idhnillah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us. And in the meantime, I want to call to you guys, inshallah, an invite to everybody here to be part of the IMY convention, the Inspiring American Muslim Youth Convention. So many of the things that I was talking about in this khutbah, in understanding our shabab, our youth, we need to really discuss these issues, study them, and focus an entire period of time where we can just focus on them, on these issues, and discuss them openly. So alhamdulillah, we have our 4th annual convention, not this weekend, the next weekend, March 12th and 13th. The invite is for all of you, inshallah, and for all of our young brothers and sisters to come and to bring your families to this convention. It's right here in our backyard in Secaucus on Route 3, the Meadowlands Convention Center. Inshallah, we have some of our great speakers and scholars from around the country coming. Sheikh Walid Basuni, Siraj Wahaj, Imam Zaid Shakir. We also have Sheikh Abdul Fattah Moro, who will come from Tunis to talk about what is our role as Muslims and as Muslim youth in our entire ummah. So please, I invite and urge each and every single one of you to come and to be part of this convention, inshallah, next weekend. It's all day Saturday and Sunday. You can, if you have any questions, you can register downstairs, or you can grab one of the club cards. إني داع فأمن. اللهم تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. اللهم لك الحمد أولا وآخرا، ولك الحمد ظاهرا وباطنا، ولك الحمد في كل آن وكل وقت وكل حين. اللهم تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم أصلح شبابنا، اللهم قوهم وثبتهم وسدد خطاهم. اللهم انصرهم على أعدائك وعلى كل شيطان مارد. اللهم إنا نسألك يا رب العالمين أن تتقبل منا أعمالنا وأن تكتبه في صالح أعمالنا. وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد عبدك ورسولك النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين، وأقم الصلاة.